All right, today we are joined by combat sports royalty. We're speaking with a two-time judoka Olympic gold medalist, one of the best female talents in mixed martial arts, an unbeaten featherweight, lightweight. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Of course, let's welcome Kayla Harrison. Kayla, how are you? And thank you for taking time for this interview.
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So obviously, you're coming off a big win over the weekend in at Invicta FC, 43, defeating Courtney King via second round TKO. It was your featherweight debut. It was an excellent debut, but we know that you're sometimes very critical of your performance. Now that we're a few days removed, how do you feel about that victory and that performance at 145 pounds?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. Honestly, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to compete. I'm grateful to Invicta and PFL and my manager Ali for making it happen. Um, and I still, I feel like there were still some holes and there was some stuff that I wanted to work on that I didn't get to work on. But overall, I'm happy with the performance.
Nice. Yeah. And one of the big things that was in that performance, and I think that took everyone by maybe a little bit by surprise, was those elbows. Those elbows were super effective, super damaging. And I mean, they were a great tool that you were using in that fight. Obviously, this is the first time that you get to use them because they're not allowed in PFL, obviously, because of the season format.
Hmm.
Um, how did that come about? Like, is that something you trained knowing that you could use them, or in the fight, you're like, hey, I can drop elbows here?
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it leading up into the fight. My coach, Mike Brown, had me, drill some specific positions where they would be good to use. And literally, the very first elbow in my career that I threw, I cut her open pretty good. Blood started I've never made anyone bleed, I don't think, in the 7 previous fights. So then I went from no blood to like too much blood.
Yeah, that was definitely from 0 to 60. How was that experience like? I'm guessing like it definitely looked like, especially given like the fact that you're able to take the fight to the ground with ease, like such a big tool for you to use.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I think that elbows are super favorable to anybody who does well in the top position, and I am sort of known, take them down, ground and pound, get the submission. That's kind of my game plan for versus anybody. So to be able to add elbows and it's just going to make it even more brutal to be on the bottom.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I guess how are you gonna do now in PFL? Are you gonna have to like restrain yourself because obviously they're not allowed in the season and the tournament.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna beg PFL to let there be elbows. No, I think it'll be okay. I mean, I've got 7 fights under my belt with no elbows, so I'm used to it.
Certainly. Yeah. And obviously, as I said, this was your debut at 145 pounds. It didn't look like your performance was compromised at all, despite, the extra 10 pounds that you had to cut. You looked pretty explosive, fast. Your conditioning seemed pretty good. How'd you feel at fighting at 145?
Yeah, I felt good. I was surprised how good I felt actually. I felt the same as I do at 155. So that was a nice surprise, a pleasant surprise. Um, I think I'm probably going to be a lot stronger than most women at 145 and a lot bigger. Typically at 155, I fought girls that are much bigger than me just because I don't cut weight and I walk around at about 160, 165. So um, it was different for sure, but I was glad that I made the weight. I know I haven't weighed that since I was like 16 years old. So that was a big hurdle for me. But I was pretty professional about it. I really tried to stay very disciplined. I got to the fight at about 153. Um, and then, I dieted down to that and then didn't have to cut too much water. So it was not a good, not a pleasant experience, but it's good to know that I can do it. It's good to know that I can do it under terrible COVID conditions where I'm literally quarantined to my room and not allowed to leave it. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you said you hadn't weighted this much since you were like 16 years old. Was this the first time that you cut that much weight? Like, I don't know how
Mm,
much, if you cut much weight
I
throughout your
never,
judo career.
I actually fought in judo. I fought at 78 kilos, which is 172 pounds. So
Okay.
I did not cut weight at all in judo. I walked around at about 168 to 170. Um, I was a lot thicker back then, a lot more, I guess a lot more junk in the trunk. It takes weight to move weight. So I had a lot more going on back then. But yeah.
And what was it, a big lifestyle change, or how much effort did you actually have to
Yeah.
put to get into 145 pounds?
Yeah. I mean, normally when I fight at 155, I eat when I get close to a fight, I eat clean. But I eat as much as I want. I eat until I'm full, or I eat, there's no like portion control or anything. But for 145, I definitely had to, like, 4 ounces of meat and X amount of carbs, and like really just much more disciplined, and regimented in that, what times I ate, what I was eating, all of that stuff. So it was, much more strict, much more, miserable than, than I normally am. I had to miss all the Halloween candy, so that sucked.
Yeah, that's a rough one for sure. I have a sweet tooth, so I can't imagine how difficult that must be. But so having that experience of cutting down to 145, like, do you see yourself potentially having a career there, or do you think you ultimately keep fighting at 155?
um, I'm definitely, um well, I'll fight for the PFL next year at 155, and then see what happens. Obviously, I don't believe in cutting weight. I don't really think it's that good for your body. I don't think it sends a good message to kids. And I truly believe that if you're going to win at whatever weight you fight. But having said that, I am in the business of Kayla Harrison, and there's probably going to be more opportunities for me at 145 than 155. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And you have one more fight in Invicta, right? If I'm not
Uh,
mistaken.
Maybe not necessarily Invicta, but I do want to fight one more time before the PFL season starts.
Okay, it could be other promotions, not specifically Invicta.
Hmm.
Oh, sweet. Do you have interest in fighting elsewhere, trying maybe like a different promotion other than
No, I
Invicta?
really enjoyed my experience with Invicta. I had a great time. I think it was really cool to be on an all women's card. I think that was pretty neat. Um, Shannon was great. Everyone was very hospitable. Um, I was just grateful for the opportunity. They opened their cage to me with open arms. So it was a really good experience. I just don't know if time wise it's going to work out. It's
Yeah.
nothing. I didn't enjoy the experience or anything. I'm just not exactly sure when they have another card and if it lines up with when PFL's season starts, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. I know there's a lot of factors going
Yeah.
on in that.
Mhm.
And I know my colleague John Morgan asked you about Amanda Nunes. Obviously, like, since you're a big talent in women's MMA, a lot of people want to see sort of this huge fight. But I'm curious. Now that you mentioned that you can fight elsewhere, what about Cris Cyborg? Obviously, we know that Bellator President Scott Coker has been open to cross promotion. They've done cross promotion fights with Ryzen. Would that be something that interests you at all?
Of course, I would love to fight Cyborg. She's one of the greats. I don't think that it'll happen before the PFL season. But I don't, I'm not afraid to, I'll fight anybody. I obviously, Amanda's my teammate, so it's a little different with the friendship side of it, but she's the greatest of all time. So of course, at some point, at someday, I would like to be considered good enough to fight the greatest of all time. That's the goal. The goal is to become the greatest of all time. But Cyborg is another female, superstar, legend. She's a legend of the sport, and I would jump at that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a great fight. And I'm curious. I know that in back in October, if I'm not mistaken, of 2019, you signed an extension with PFL.
Hmm.
But what's kind of your, if you can speak on it, of course, if you can't, all good. But what's kind of your situation with them? Are you contracted to fight one more time in the tournament, obviously? And is there something beyond that, or would
Yeah,
that be?
I just have. I'm going to compete in the next season, which starts in April of 2021. Um, and that will be the end of my contractual duties to the PFL. So,
Nice. I know it's kind of early and a lot of things have to happen before you get to that point, but I guess would you be open to test free agency, or would you want to continue with PFL?
I'm just gonna take it one fight at a time, see what
Mhm.
happens, fulfill my duties, go win another belt, and take it from there.
For sure. And this was your 8th professional fight. You've been fighting now for a little bit over 2 years, right? I believe you made your debut in summer of 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
How do you feel so far about your career? And 2 years in, 8 fights in, are you kind of where you expected to be? How do you feel about your progress through the sport?
Yeah, I feel like I've come a long way since that first fight. I'd like to be 10 fights in. That would be better than 8 fights in, but you got to take what you can get, especially with a year like this. Um, and I think that I'm still just getting started. I think that I'm still learning every day. There's not a day that I go to the gym where I don't pick up something new, which is good because it means that I haven't reached my full potential. I haven't even begun to touch the surface of what I'm truly capable of. And that once it all clicks and once it all comes together for me, it's gonna be scary.
Oh, no doubt. I believe you. I mean, if what we saw at Invicta FC 43 was just a glimpse, I can't imagine what reaching your full potential would look like. Lastly, you mentioned how you didn't get to enjoy Halloween candy. I'm guessing, are you enjoying that now? I know it's a little bit late. We're in November, almost December, but what's sort of the status?
Yeah, no, it's actually scary how much weight you can gain within the space of like 4 days. Like I made the mistake of getting on the scale today and I was like, "Oh, all right. Don't do that for a couple days. At least not until I get back to the gym to start training." Yeah, no, I've had some Chinese food. I've had some Halloween candy. Looking forward to Thanksgiving dinner,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
for sure.
probably back on the discipline wagon and getting my just back to life as normal.
Yeah,
Back
for
to
sure. Yeah,
that.
Thanksgiving, interesting year, obviously, with the whole COVID thing, but I'm sure everyone's gonna be still, regardless, be doing a lot of eating and getting heavy. All right, Kayla. Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for doing this interview. Again, awesome performance at Invicta FC 43, and can't wait to see you return to the cage, wherever that is, with its PFL, Bellator, or Invicta, wherever you do this next fight that before the tournament.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving.